again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Browns Latest. This is where we get together and talk about some of the latest news that involves our favorite team, the Cleveland Browns, and then we also give you our take or our spin on the news as the show moves along. Thank you to everyone who has liked our previous episodes. Hopefully this one will get into that list as well. And to everybody who has subscribed to the channel, I really appreciate the support you are showing for the show. And then, of course, the viewer comments. Boy, oh boy, we were going crazy yesterday. Boy, we had some fun there in the viewer comments. Plenty of things to talk about. And I appreciate everybody who jumps in and makes their voice heard. Now, coming up on today's show, there's plenty to talk about today, too. A fan vote put together a list of the top 10 all-time Browns in history. But I think there's a few guys missing from the list. I mean, we got to figure out a way to get them in there. Okay. Also, today we're going to point out the one common trait that every Super Bowl winning quarterback has. Former Pro Bowl player coming out and saying what he thinks will be the first major hurdle for Shedeur Sanders to get over when training camp begins. And down in the viewer comments, what one viewer says the Browns are doing if Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel start the season as QB1. And so, hey, and before we get to the Browns all time, hey, Cleveland, a big new Cleveland getting a WNBA team, and then Pittsburgh Steelers making a trade, getting Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. Remember, Jonnu Smith, we talked about him as a potential, when I said, okay, we can't get Pitts, maybe we can get Smith. But then I found Cole Kmet, and now I'm in love with Cole Kmet. But Jonnu Smith had a great year last year. Miami's they're not paying him. They weren't going to pay him. So Jalen Ramsey, who, I don't know. My first reaction is, isn't he kind of washed up? But Jonnu Smith, now you have him and Freiermuth in that offense for Aaron Rodgers. I still think Pittsburgh stinks. I think Cincinnati's defense is terrible. The only one that I'm really worried about in this division is Baltimore, because our defense, and I think our defense is going to ball out and handle Lamar Jackson. So we're winning the division. So it really doesn't matter who Pittsburgh picks up at this point. But I will also mention this. David Njoku already on a list of tight ends that Miami will pursue, according to sources, to replace Jonnu Smith in Miami. And I'm telling you folks, they're not signing him. So that's why we need to find somebody to complement Fannin now. If it's Kmet, if it's Pitts, I'm all for that. But Njoku's 28. They're not paying him. He can't catch the easy passes, and so Njoku, I think his days here are numbered. I don't think he's not going to be around that much longer. Okay, but I digress. Let's move on now. Okay, so there's this all-time Browns team. It's called the website called Ranker.com. They let fans get in there and vote, and they did the Browns. And here's the list that they came up with. And this is, remember, fan voting. And Jim Brown's on it, Joe Thomas, Otto Graham, Ozzie Newsome, Myles Garrett, Clay Matthews, Nick Chubb, Bernie Kosar, Paul Warfield, and Lou Groza. And it's difficult to argue with, any one of those guys. So, but I just think there are two, maybe three guys that we might just need to make exceptions, whether you make them like 10A, 10B, 10C or something. But Hanford Dixon probably should be on that list. And if not, Frank Minifield, Muddy Minifield. He was a member of the NFL's all-80s decade team. I think Mighty Minnie should be in there. But the guy who's missing that I think just has to be in there somewhere, Phil Dawson. He might be there. We suck at quarterbacks, but we do pretty good sometimes with kickers. And we had a good one for the longest time. And these are his stats just with the Browns. Remember, he went on for another 6 more years. He kicked for San Francisco and Arizona. But Phil Dawson was just, he was automatic when we had him. He was so good for us. And I think when you talk all-time Browns, I think Phil Dawson has to be amongst the top 10. And so then it's like, who do you pull out of there? Who do you replace? I mean, I know everybody loves Nick Chubb, and I don't think Bernie's coming off that list. Clay Matthews, beloved here, so it's like, man, it's tough. So that's why I say, let's make it the top 10 A, B, and C or something. But Phil Dawson, I don't know. When you talk about all-time Browns greats, to me, Phil Dawson has to be in the conversation. Okay. Let's talk quarterbacks now, because we really never do that on this show. Oh, wait, that's all we ever do is talk about quarterbacks, because we've got 4 of them, and we've got the hottest quarterback battle going on in the history of the NFL. If you just woke up, like if you were frozen, like Superman or something, and they thawed you out today, and you think this would be the most incredible quarterback battle in the history of football. It seems to be. So so everybody's, do we let the rookies sit for a few games? Do we let them start right away? Nobody knows what to do. Start the veterans, start Pickett, small hands Pickett with situational grit. What do we do? So I said, okay, let me look at the quarterbacks who have won Super Bowls. Is there any common trait, okay, among all the quarterbacks that have won a Super Bowl? And there is. Every single Super Bowl winning quarterback, every single one of them. None of them won. There is no such thing as a rookie quarterback that has won the Super Bowl. None. There are rookie quarterbacks who start week 1. We showed that yesterday. They start week 1. They play with it. But no quarterback has won the Super Bowl as a rookie. They all have that same trait. Now, I know I was getting dinged on the rookie list, but I can only fit so many in there. And I try to mention some of the other guys, but this is, I try to make a bigger list for you on this, but look at your list, and then look at, the year they started and then the year they won it. There are some second years in there. I mean, guys who started as rookies: Matt Stafford, Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco. We mentioned, that yesterday. Roethlisberger and Manning, but the 4th second year starting quarterbacks in the NFL who won Super Bowls: Kurt Warner, Tom Brady, of course. Well, he won a bunch. You're going to see that on the next graphic. Roethlisberger, Wilson was in his 2nd year when he won it. Rodgers, the rare case. Remember, he sat until his 4th year behind Brett Favre, and he's been around forever. So that's why, to me, it's not, the longest, to even wait that long. But here are the some other names. Mahomes is on there, of course. I just tried to fit as many as I could. I only went back like 10 years. I'm not going all the way back because it just gets to be too much. But, yes, do quarterbacks play in their rookie year? Yes. Have they ever won a Super Bowl? Absolutely not. So, now you can argue, okay, well, they got the experience they needed in the 1st year and they applied it, the 2nd year. But I think there's a lot of things that go into it. But I do think, like I said, yesterday, I think the way our offense is setting up, I think it's going to be rookie friendly, with the running game and the defense that we have. But, if you're giving me a choice, I just feel like, just because, like I said, we suck at quarterbacks. We just, I just don't see any fault unless, if Shador, I don't know if it's going to be Gabriel, but if Shador, just takes off during training camp and they get in, and he works his way up to the ones and he's, and he's balling out in those combined practices, then yeah, if it's trending upwards, why not? And speaking of which, along those lines, we had a former Pro Bowl wide receiver come out and talk about Shador. And he talked about what he thinks is going to be his biggest hurdle early on, like when training camp first starts. This is what Keyshawn Johnson said. He's on a show called Speak. It's also on YouTube, but so you don't want to watch that. You want to watch this show. But anyway, on his show, he said, Pickett will get the early reps. Shador could push him, but typically when you get the early reps, they start to focus on the season at some point. And here's the hurdle. He says, they don't have time to mess around if you're not doing the things they asked you to do at the start of training camp. If you're out there just spitting the ball out and making the coaches rethink once they go back into the meeting rooms after practice, if you're doing that, they're going to stay with Kenny Pickett. So what he's saying is, if you don't start wowing right away, they're just going to stick with their original plan. You need to go out there. Shador needs to go out there and flip the script, change the narrative that they're working under. And TJ Hushmanzada, who was also on that show, he doubled down. He went the opposite way. He says he's got a source in the building who says is he coming down to Pickett and Gabriel. He says that's it. He goes, and he's saying that this depth chart is already prearranged according to his source in the building. So he's saying Pickett or Gabriel. So, I mean, anything is possible at this point, folks. I mean, Pickett and his situational grit, Dylan Gabriel. I don't know. I'm digging into lefty quarterbacks. I'm gonna do something soon, but I'm just trying to figure out. I want it to make sense. I'm not just gonna get up there and say things about left-handed quarterbacks or shorter quarterbacks or whatever. But to me, that's a thing. I just want to, I'm looking into it. But anyway, everybody's got an opinion, and Gabriel's gonna be in the same boat. If he's not wowing, they're gonna stay with the vets. Like if Shador's not wowing right out of the gate, that's the other thing. The timing on this, they don't have a ton of time to figure this out, or maybe they already have it figured out and they're not even worried about it. If TJ Hushmanzada, who by the way, one of the greatest fantasy football commercials ever, revolved around TJ Hushmanzada. If you remember, it was the draft and all those guys were making the picks and the guys trying to pick TJ Hushmanzilla. TJ, who's your mama? Dude, that was one of the funniest fantasy football commercials in the history of fantasy football commercials. But maybe TJ Hushmanzada is right. Maybe they already know. So we'll see. We won't know anything until training camp starts. Now, the one thing I do know is that our viewer comments clear every hurdle. I'll tell you, there are so many good comments. I might have to just start doing exclusive content for the extra good comments so we can have a whole side separate show once a week just with viewer comments and just go through some of them, because I wish I could take calls, because there are just so many good ones. And today we're going to start with Tristan Skywalker, who says, I'm a huge Shador fan. However, I would prefer he did not start the season. Let someone else deal with the playoff teams to start the season. I say this because he is not going to have a long rope. Many will try to use it as proof he cannot play when everyone knows it's going to be a tough start for any quarterback on the roster. The haters will give every other quarterback on the team grace and make excuses for their bad play. Shador will not be afforded the same patience and understanding. Tristan, I thought that was a great take. And I will tell you that I think we've already seen those kind of things happen in Cleveland, where you rush a guy in there and then you're in such a hurry for him. We just don't show the patience that they need. And this is just a different situation, because, with Shador and everything that he brings. But, I think he can handle it, though. But that's me. But I do think I don't think you're wrong, Tristan, and so it remains to be seen. But I thought that was a great take. Robert McCarthy then doubles down on Tristan's take, and he responded to Tristan's take by saying, "Unfortunately, I think you're right, and I never looked at it that way. The kid has a lot of haters because he's got a big personality and people are jealous. It's like Mean Girls, except it's dudes, LOL," and he's right. He says, I was looking at it from a more practical standpoint of starting him later, kind of like Mahomes, Brady, a lot of the other greats that don't start game one. They wait to get adjusted and then play. I'm excited to see him play, just don't want to rush him in, even if he is the best quarterback in the room. And Robert McCarthy, I couldn't have said it better myself. That is exactly where I'm at. I've seen those guys wait a year, and we just showed you the graphic. You're not winning a Super Bowl as a rookie. So why do we need to rush? Why do we need to rush it? Even if Shador sits most of the year and takes over in game 9, 10, 11, whatever it is, who cares? Don't rush him in there. Make sure he's ready. That's all we want. We want him to play. We just want to make sure he's ready, because we don't want him to go out there and just bad things happen, or he loses his confidence or whatever, like any of that. So great takes by both of you. Okay, Nessa's 9647. Remember when I said the Watson situation directly affected Sanders? Check it out. Gabriel was never a serious option for Cleveland. The organization is all over the place. It's hard to be a fan of the Browns, Shador fan / CU auntie here. And Nessa's, I need to check up on the CU aunties again and see what they're up to. We're getting close to the season, gotta be planning something, right? But I appreciate it. And yes, the one thing you are absolutely right about, it is hard to be a Browns fan. It is. But we talked about that Deshaun Watson situation, and the ties to the whole collusion thing, and what maybe there is something there with the Shador and the collusion. Okay, Adam Wareheim says, and this is what we teased at the top: if Pickett or Gabriel start, we are punting the season. I bet money on it. They both are backups at best. I will say this. I feel like there's a Colt McCoy vibe going with the two of them. They really, like, Gabriel's he's got to climb the mountain for me. I know, people were getting on me about getting on Gabriel in the comments a little bit. But for me, I'm just like, I haven't found one person. We found that one person who said he liked the Gabriel pick in the third round. But you got to show me. Like, you got to show me why you took this guy. Because when he went out there and had his first pass batted down at OTAs, I'm thinking, oh boy, I don't know. He's got a long way to win me over. But anyway, I digress. All right, Larry Ambrose is how we're going to end. Larry Ambrose says, last year they had Dorsey call plays. We were 4-13. 2 years ago, Stefanski called plays and made the playoffs. What is wrong with his play calling? Here's what I think. Why I struggle with Stefanski in the play calling. I think it's because of Watson and putting the square peg in the round hole. We were not running his offense. But then when you saw Flacco in there, we were more in line with Stefanski's offense. That's why I'm going to try to back off on the play calling, only because we're going back to his offense. So if it's his offense and his play, this all should mesh up. So that's what I think the problem is with Stefanski's play calling. The other thing I don't like about the play calling that I mentioned is he should be the head coach. He should be one or the other. He's not one of those guys like Reed and some of these other guys who can do both. I don't know. And I saw that with the Mayfield situation. Mayfield needed to be managed, like play to play. Like he needed to be managed, and he never was. Nobody stepped up to be the adult in the room. And now look at him. He's off doing great things for somebody else, which is typical for us in Cleveland. All right. Hey, great job. Great job in the comments. Keep them coming. Love it. I don't know. Maybe exclusive content. Maybe we just do takes. I don't know. We'll come up with a name for it or something. The Total Takedown or something. I don't know. But we have to, because you guys have so many great comments. Okay. Thank you so much. Go Browns. We'll see you next time.